Hey guys. All right. Things did not go quite according to plan. I thought I was going to have like everything time to actually get everything ready, like all the servers built. And yeah, as you can see, this one's still installing updates. I have another one that's installing a server before I can sysprep it. I got a Windows 11 installation running. Lots of things going on. I got machines being cloned over on another thing. It's crazy. I'm telling you, it's nuts. I'm half tempted just to kill this. As a matter of fact, let's do that. Close that. Come back over here. Boom, 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 boom. Did you start? Wait for it. Yeah, that's what I thought. Clicked it twice. My bad. All right. Kind of think, yeah, let's do that just to be safe. I want to sysprep it, but I'm pretty sure that I have updates pending. So I'm gonna restart it. Make sure that it has all the updates applied that it currently has. We'll kill the cumulative update, which is fine. We don't really need it. It's just good practice when you build a server to install all the pending updates, get it up to date, then do the rest of your config. Which, considering this is a one-off, it's okay if we skip it. And we wait. So let's take a look at what it is that what Reddit question I'm going to address tonight. That's fabulous. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Nicole Kidman filed for divorce. Or Keith Urban filed. Anyway, they're getting divorced. She's getting divorced. Somebody's getting divorced. I don't know. Okay. Okay, so we go to not that one. We go to Windows Server. Here we go. And we scroll down. Now, I've already answered this in the post comments, but I actually want to demonstrate it. As well. Huh? Why is World of Warcraft showing up in a... Okay, here we go. Okay, so the problem that they had... Can I get that out of the way? Yes, I can. Sweet. All right, so... No, stop. So what they're saying is they configured DFS replication for 2 Windows Server 2019 machines in a test environment. 2 servers have identical hard drives, 3 partitions, 1 for the OS, 2 partitions for general use. They've said, you know, C, D, and E. Okay, it's fine. They've configured DFS replication for these servers so that PC1 is the primary, replicates to PC2. And I'm not sure about this read-only replication for PC2 only, but we'll dig into that. That's really not... If it's an option, it shouldn't have been checked. They've configured replication only for the shared folder, D, which is a partition and a drive letter, not an actual shared folder, but whatever. which is the partition itself for both the servers. Once they switched off PC1 to simulate a failure, and then they moved its hard drive to PC2. So that implies that they took the hard drive out of PC1, took it over to PC2 and installed it. Almost like a hot swap drive. So what they did is essentially took this out and put it in the other box, right? Which isn't how DFS works. So there's the first problem. They took the hard drive, they took a hard drive out of, let's say, PC1, put it in PC2, when they'd already supposedly had replication going between PC1 and PC2. Right? Let's diagram that a little bit while we're waiting for Windows to do the thing. And we'll just move that over here. All right. And diagrams.net or draw.io, it's actually a nice little diagramming tool. You just throw open a browser if you want to diagram something quickly or not. Okay, so I was already sketching out some of this in preparation. So let's add a text field. No, let's not do that. Let's duplicate that text field. And PC1. No, don't do that. Unfavorite. I don't want to favorite that because this is a virtual machine. So I'll probably blow it away at some point anyway. Start over. Okay, so let's diagram this out. As soon as I figure out how to use double clicks and keyboards and things, right? And so I did do some pre-planning here. Unfortunately, the installations to get everything prepped, like the server builds and everything, just took a little longer. And I obviously didn't have those ready, which I should have. So that's my bad. All right, so they got PC1, PC2, and they've got the 3 partitions. So you got partition. Let me move this. So my big fat head. Well, my big fat head's not in the way just yet. Let's put that back. All right, so yeah, we've got. No, stop being helpful. Thank you. All right, so they've got partition C, D, E. Now, from here, they say 3 partitions, but they don't actually. The 2 servers have identical hard drives with 3 partitions. So that almost says to me that they've got 3 hard drives and a partition per. Right? So if I duplicate this, let me move this other stuff out of the way. First off, let's get rid of that. Let's get some more real estate over here. Fit to window. Okay. All right, so we're going to take all of this. I'm just going to, actually, no. Stop. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. Take all of this. Let's move that up here. Let's take those. Move those down out of the way. There we go. Now we got some breathing room. And stuff. Okay. Okay. So if I'm reading or if I'm interpreting this correctly, right, this should be E and D, right? And then duplicate this. Add that there. Duplicate this. Come back over here. Yep, we're good. And do the same thing, right? D and E. Okay, so this should be essentially how their servers are built from what I'm reading here. That's what I'm guessing. Because when you say you have identical hard drives with 3 partitions, I don't know if you're talking 3 identical drives in size. You know, like you have 3 1 terabyte drives, right? Just for example. But what they did is they shut this guy off. And then they took a disk and installed it in PC2. Which, yeah, that's not how it's not how that's going to work. Just checking on the progress there. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, clones. Give me just a second here. Okay, so let's clone you. 003. Oops. So we can do that. Sorry, I'm in the process of also cloning out some other virtual machines. So I can build this proper. Oops. Okay, so we'll let that clone. So yeah, back to the deal. So you should never have to move this in the event. If you're doing replication, you're never going to pull a disk out of a failed machine. So if, you know, if this guy goes down, you're just leaving that. Because DFS with replication means that if they upload a file, let's see if I can find a file thing here. Should be Active Directory, right? We can do that. Dun, 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 dun. Not my sites, not site allocation. It's a wiring hub, not what I want. Wiki site, server, not secure. PDA, no. Good grief. All right, this is going to be my file, right? So this is going to be like whatever they're uploading. Okay, so you know, the user's device uploads the file, and we're going to create a share here. Public and Jedi, because we can resize this a little bit. There we go. Okay, so they work on a file, they save it, it gets saved here because they're currently, DFS has them mapped to PC1, right? And then when they save it, replication is going to kick that right over, depending on the replication schedule. It may not happen immediately, it may not happen in 5 minutes. You could quite set this up to, you know, replicate once every 4 hours, right? because you want to save bandwidth. You have high utilization during the day. You don't want it copying a bunch of files necessarily over whatever. So when you have it properly set up, oops, hello. No. Good grief. You'd think I'd never used this before in my life. End. There we go. Okay, so we have the sheriff public. We have a folder within public called Jedi. Okay, now that share is going to be the same on both PC1 and PC2 for DFS. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but it kind of makes more sense if you set them up that way. So you're not trying to remember the difference between where you name the shares. As long as their name is the same when you start creating it, again, your life is going to be easier. Because we can point it kind of however we want. Let me change this here. This is not going to be public shares. We're just going to call it public. Okay, so we take all of this, move it up here-ish. And then we take this, oops, not that. Take the file and the name. All right, move them up over here, just like so. So we have D public, and then under that we have Jedi and Senate. Okay, so we save this file to Jedi. DFS replicates over to PC2 on its own. So if PC1 crashes, this mapping automatically switches to the share on PC2. That's all the more that's required there. Replicate. The user should never really miss a beat. And switching is seamless. Mostly. You may notice a slight hiccup, but again, to the user, this is almost imperceptible. And I'll demonstrate that once I have everything up and running, which apparently is going to take much longer than I thought. So while this is doing the thing, let's go ahead and build the domain because I didn't have it built prior. I'll spin up the VM here. Actually, I'm going to spin up both my domain controllers. Because domain controllers, right? Always got to have two. It's just a moment. Because we've got things going on, right? All right. We got DCO1, DCO2. Okay. Let's move that out of my way for right now. I had so many virtual machines up because I was really just wanting to have at least the virtual machine set up before I started streaming. And I just ran out of time last night. Of course, the day job. But all you're hearing is excuses, right? Okay, hi there. Oh, let me do this real quick. All right, there we go. Okay, hi there. What's your name? Blah 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 blah. Okay, so this is DC1. I'm gonna accept the terms. Give it an administrator password. I mean, as you can tell, this is a brand new Server 2019 installation. So we do that. We come over here to DC2. Give it an administrative password as well. Go back to DC1. Control Alt Delete. Log in. And do the same over here. Okay. While that's doing the thing there, we'll deal with yet a third machine because, you know, it can never be too busy, right? Clone our other file server. What are you mad about, bro? Oh, that's what you're mad about. Because I can't read and I'm reusing numbers. Okay. For those of you who are still following, whenever you start up Windows Server, right? This is important. You see this blue bar over here about networks, and it asks, do you want to allow your PC to be discoverable by other PCs on this network? And Microsoft recommends that you do this, and you do want to do this. And there's a very specific reason why. So click yes. And if you miss it, it's annoying, but you can fix it just like that. So now that I have them both broken, or one broken, yay me. All right. So why is this important? If we look at our network and sharing center, not so much the adapters. Don't care about that right now. My bad. All right. So if we look, the network here is private. Come over to the one that I broke. Wait for it to catch up. Okay. Then go to Network Sharing Center. Close the extra window because we really don't need that right now. Flip back to DC1. We wait some more. It's probably because of the cloning operation, but whatever. Okay. I do have the opportunity to fix that. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so that should be good. Oops, my bad. All right, mess with that later. Hello? Okay, it's just being super slow. All right, got it. So now on this one, because I did not click yes, it's on a public network, not private. Right now, that doesn't really matter. But when it comes to like firewall policies and that sort of thing on Windows Server, you're going to have a public, private, and domain network that it will show. And ideally, you want it on either private or domain, depending on whether or not you have a domain. We don't currently have one, so it's not a huge crisis for us right at the moment. but we're going to have one soon. And of course, as soon as you install Windows Server, you are greeted with our new best friend, the Server Manager. And pretty much everything that you're going to do from here on out in Microsoft Server is going to be done through the Server Manager. Yay. So real quick, you've got navigation bar up here with your breadcrumbs, Server Manager, dashboard. If we click on the other navigation bar under local server, the breadcrumbs change. Obviously, we've got our computer name, work group. Wait for this to kind of populate up some. We also have a back forward button, drop down, which, yeah, there we go. I'm going to go to dashboard, local server. I'm going to back up and go to dashboard. All your navigation there. You've got refresh here. Right? We got your back, forward, drop down navigation there. And this is actually, this whole bar right here is a navigation bar. And then you have the dynamic contents of where you're selected in navigation. If you go to all servers, this obviously changes. But a lot of what you're going to do initially is going to be from local server and in this window. Like the very first thing you want to do, obviously, is change the time zone. My time zone is correct, but we're going to go through and walk through updating that or changing that as well. Okay, so if you notice, I clicked right here for time zone instead of down here, right? And if I right click, there's adjust date time right here. And why did I do that? Well, if I open adjust date time, right? Yes, I can change the time zone here. I can click on the button. I can change the time zone from the drop down here. I can also automatically adjust for daylight savings time. So far, no, what I can do in one, I can do in the other one. No big deal, right? However, this little box right here, notify me when the clock changes. That is not over here at all. Which means that if I don't have the option to untick it, twice a year, I'm going to log into the server for some reason after daylight savings time either starts or ends, and I'm going to have a little notification from Windows that says, hey, we updated your clock for daylight savings time. I don't need it. It's useless. So I don't go from here to adjust the to adjust the time zone on Windows Server. I open the time zone from here specifically so that I can untick this box right here. Then I click OK. And there you go. You can activate, you can click download updates. Right now we're going to leave remote desktop disabled. In fact, I'm probably not going to enable it at all. The IPv4 address, whilst assigned by DHCP. Actually, let's take a look at this real quick, because it's going to get cranky here in a minute when we're doing things. So if we click on that, right click on Ethernet on our adapter, we only have the one, so we can't confuse it, right? And we wait, click again. All right, so here we can go to status and click on details. This will tell us what IP address we have. So we picked up an IP address from DHCP. Yay us. We got our net mask, we got our gateway, all of these things. Now, obviously, we don't want a server to live on a DHCP address. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that on both of these real quick. I prefer to have my server manager in the upper right of the screen. I don't know why. It just the way that it does, the way that I prefer to do it. So we're going to go over to local server. We're going to do the same thing over here. So we're going to click right here on IPv address. We're going to right click on Ethernet. Oop, not go to status yet. And then I'm going to move this out of the way. Actually, I do want to go to status. And then I'm going to click on details and look at the IP address. Which really currently doesn't matter. I do need to update this with Microsoft Edge, which is slightly irritating. But not mice. I can type. I promise I can type. Okay, yes, I know. Thank you. Go away. Close that. And go to Microsoft Edge. Close that. No. Go. Let's see. What do we want? We want to add Bing. Okay, fine. Just add it to the trusted sites for right now. Whatever. Yes. Okay. Accept. Save. Run. And then while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go to Internet Options. It's not settings. It's under security. Sites. Okay, because I'm going to remove them from trusted sites when this is done. We wait. We wait some more. Okay, so we've got another server that's ready to go. One more, two more. Yeah, one more to clone. No. FS1, FS2, DC1, DC2. Okay. So I have them all. Real quick though, because my OCD is going to get offended. FS1. All right. That should lowercase that, right? Yep. All right, good. Because otherwise I was going to get offended. All right. So now we bring FS01 into the picture as well, since I've got to set all these guys up. And we'll do the same thing with FS02 because that clone operation is done. And I apologize for this being a bit of a mess. I prefer to work with them all on one screen, but the nested VMs were taking too long and I really wanted to get this going. Okay, I do all the initial Edge setup stuff because I need to play 20 questions every time I install a new browser. Don't you? Thankfully, we're not installing it that often, right? In theory, unless you're doing a home lab like this. And then, yeah, you've got a lot. So, I was installing Edge. What was I installing Edge for? Oh. Because I want to go to the DHCP server, which is also my firewall. Mhm. Not the privacy error. I clicked on this, right? All right. That one's spinning up. That one's spinning up. This one's not spinning up because it doesn't have to. Back to DC01. Okay. Why are you being difficult? Ah, there we go. You're not being difficult. You're just being slow. All right. So that is not the password. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, this is not reversible. You're about to migrate now to click start a trial. You can migrate license later. Okay, yeah, start a trial. Because I haven't actually registered and licensed this is free. During the master class, we will go through the installation of how to get your free firewall, which you can or cannot register as you want. You will get everything to make it totally legit. It is 100% free for home use, which is awesome. Although for the masterclass, depending on how your home lab is set up and how you set that up, you may not register it. Obviously, your choice. You got 30 days to do whatever. You've got a free license. You can go back and get another license if you want. All the things, like right here. So this is where it's going to get cranky about me wanting to claim it. Which means that if I don't claim it, I can't see the options, which is annoying. All right, let's move that out of the way for now. Actually, you know what? No. Again, this is a one-off. I don't need to be that particular with it. Let's see. Let's remove you. Remove you. Remove you. Okay, close. Close that. Always close all tabs because we should never open you again, but you will. So yeah, if I right click in here, go to properties, click on TCP/IPv4, go into properties. Here I can enter in, I can manually enter in the IP address, the subnet mask, the gateway. Again, this is a one-off, so we're doing this pretty quick and dirty, which means I'm really not. It's going to get cranky about it, but it'll still work. Okay, that's doing the thing there. That's doing the thing there. Some. However, go away. Okay, you were there, DCO1. All right. So first thing we need to do is build the domain. So in Server Manager, you also have on your top navigation bar, you have the refresh button. Here, you also have your notifications. We currently don't have any. You also have your menu bar right here, right? So you have Manage, Tools, View, and Help. So if we want to install a role, we go to Manage, we click on Manage. Okay, and we go to Add Roles and Features. You know, this is the GUI way. In the masterclass, I will show you both the GUI and PowerShell. Again, I'm trying to get this done fairly quick because this is fairly boring and it's not really to the meat of the Reddit question that I'm trying to address. Click next, click next. before I do that. All right, so here I also need to change the computer name. And I am going to show you both ways to do that. Nope. Let's open PowerShell. And we're going to do the 64-bit PowerShell, not the 32. Okay. So we can click on the name, the workstation name, brings up the system properties box, right? And if we click on change, we can enter in the computer name we want, right? If I call it demo name, that's fine. I can also join it to a domain, join it to a work group. And if I'm in PowerShell, which I need to be an administrator, or I need elevated privileges to do this. So close that, open it, and right click on PowerShell here, run as administrator. Actually, you know what? Honestly, I don't recall if I needed elevated permissions or not. Okay, so we can go rename computer. And new name. We're going to call this 2019-DC01. And dash restart. If you guys can't see that clear enough, let me know. I will figure out a way to zoom in on it. So we can do either, right? We can click here, join a domain, we click OK. It says you're going to have to restart, does all the things. Or we can do it here from PowerShell. Press enter. Wait for it to catch up. No, there we go. Can do the same thing over here. Oh, actually, you know what? It's a good test. Let's see if I need elevated permissions. Rename computer, new name, 2019 DC02. Restart. Yeah, there we go. So why is this guy being cranky and slow? It's his malfunction. Maybe I didn't press the thing I thought I did. All right. Okay, so while that's doing that, come over to FS1. Take care of that. Let Windows boot there. Go ahead and log in. So I need to rename it. Stop that. Okay, and I missed clicking on that stupid box again. But that's all right. Right now, it doesn't really matter. We're not doing anything that really is impacted by that right at the moment. So it's fine. Oh, and you don't need an elevated command prompt to rename a computer, which is one of the idiosyncrasies when it comes to Microsoft and Windows in general. Okay, this is FS2. Oop. Type the password in correctly. There you go. All right, rename computer, new name. And this is probably, well, this is one of the instances where using PowerShell feels faster. And I'm not going to full on time it, but rather than click change the computer name and click, 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 I can just type in the command, hit enter, off it goes, right? Way better for me. Provided that I practice a little bit of patience. Rename computer, new name. This is going to be 2019 FSO2. And restart. Let it do its bit. Okay. DCO2 is now ready. Okay, flip over to DC1. Log in there. Close that. Log into DC1. FS01 is also rebooted. All right. And FSO2. I should probably rearrange these windows. But I know where they're at. And if I rearrange them, I'll just throw myself off, I think. Okay. Move that back over there. Why? I don't know, because I'm going to wind up rebooting again. Okay, so we're named. Remote management enabled. Nick teaming is irrelevant because we only have one network card. We can get out to the internet, which is fantastic. Oh. Wheel? Okay. It's PowerShell. Look at our good old friend ipconfig, which I need all because the DNS server currently points to the firewall, which should point back to us. Right? Let's confirm that these guys are talking first. So come over to PowerShell. Run ipconfig all as well. Mainly because we're already there. So this is 29. This is 28. So if I ping 172.16.16.29, I get nothing. Now, the reason I get nothing is because of Windows Firewall. And I'll prove that to you. If I come over to DCO2, all right, go to Windows Firewall. And private network is currently active. So if I click on that, turn it off, and go back, Windows gets mad. Says, oh, you can't do that. Which I can. Well, it doesn't say you can't do that. It basically says you did a naughty thing and I don't like it. All right, so we can ping. So we know that it's Windows Firewall that's preventing us from pinging it, which by default in Server 2019, let's turn this back on. Confirm we cannot ping it again, and we cannot. It's tightened up a lot more. So whereas like Server 2012, you would be able to ping the server right after you installed it because the firewall was configured to allow incoming IMC or IMCP requests. Yes. I'm drawing a complete blank. All right. Anyway. Okay. So if we get net firewall rule, actually, let's do this two ways. Okay, so we can come over here and then we can we can go to advanced settings right here. Right. And we wait. We wait some more. Oh, and open behind it. Grr, that's what I get for not looking at the bottom here. Okay, so come in here, get rid of this stupid actions thing. It's like, I understand why Microsoft put it there, but it really just, it takes up so much space. Okay, I really want you to do that. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have multiple ways to do this, just like we do in just about anything IT related, right? I'm going to move this around a little bit. Oop, maybe not full screen. Okay, move that there. So we can allow an app through the firewall. It's also an option. Right, so we can come through here and we have multiple choices. Bum, 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 like file and print sharing over SMC. So we can enable this. And if you notice right here is private and public. So those are the network profiles that it's either active or not active on. And this one is private. So, but really I don't want to reply to IM or ping requests. Let me look that up. I can't remember the acronym to save my life. Probably because I'm live and I didn't have a note. I don't have it on a note somewhere that I can look. Because, you know, why not do this on the fly? Okay, it's ICMP. That sounds much better. All right, right here. So under file and print sharing, we can just enable the whole kit. But if you do that, you're going to allow echo requests, LLMNR, UDP, MB data, like SMBNs, Spooler servers, all of these file and print sharing, all these ones start at file and print sharing are going to be enabled, right? We don't want that. We only want to allow the specific things that we want to allow, right? So if we go to file and print share, oops, if we go here and go to ICMP version 4 in, because we're using IPv4 here, right? And we can enable the rule. And you can see where the request timed out from DC1. If I do it again, ta-da! Oh, fabulous. Okay, so while we're here, I'm also going to enable for IPv6, even though I'm not really going to use IPv6. All right, we don't need that there. So if we look, or if we try to ping DC1, again, we get nothing, right? So if we come over here, clear this whole mess up. And instead of using the GUI, we go to set net firewall rule, right? Name. Blink. File print sharing echo request. No. That is not it. Well. Now what? Okay. So maybe not set. If we get net firewall rule, and we honestly don't know what all it entails. We know that the display name is file and print sharing echo request, So rather than, let's just search them all. Okay, that's horrible. That's not useful at all, is it? All right, let's fix that. So if we go get net firewall rule, then we use the pipe and we format table and let's do dash auto and wrap. So what it will do is it will auto adjust the column widths to fit. And then if the text goes past that, it will wrap it down to the next line. So kick out a table. Ta-da! And we have a bunch of stuff. Okay, so here, as we scroll through, so what we want is FPS ICMP4 dash echo request dash end, right? Because if we go to the top here, we got the name, we have the display name. Can I probably use the display name? I think. I honestly don't know because I never do. I always look this up, or I have this command already done in my notes, which question is, have I given it to you guys? Let's check. So if we go to GitHub, go to Proteus and PowerShell. Ta-da! I do not have it there, do I? Well, there's networking. What do we got here? Okay, that's profiles. So no, I will add that. File here in just a moment. Okay, so if we don't want to get, we want to set net firewall. I can't type firewall rule and name and let's see, FPS ICMPv4 echo request N. And so the nice thing about this is we can send an array. Actually, I'm just going to send the one, but we can send an array. So we can do the name, comma, and then the name of the next one, right? So we want FPS ICMPv6 echo request or ERQ-N, right? So we can do that. No, N is lowercase. Okay, so if I scroll back up, find where these guys are at, which is right here. So FPS ICMP6 echo request then. So we got IPv6 and IPv4. We're going to set those to enable. All right. Let's see. PowerShell set net firewall rule. Okay, net security. Yes, I'm sure Bing would tell us something fabulous. Okay, so options, it's enabled, not enable. So right here, dash enable. And then with the parameter for that. So if you guys ever are looking up a PowerShell command like this, and you find it in the Microsoft Learn, you have obviously all the options. You can do new display name, description, enabled, blah, 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 blah. And if you scroll down past the examples, it gives you all of the options like confirm. The one I'm after is enabled. So if I scroll down here, keep going, enabled, right? So we go to enabled, we can do true or false. So all we need is just the text here, right? This parameter, the rule administratively, type enabled, default, none, supports wildcards false, don't show false. Okay, so we'll go to enabled true. And then this is where the profile comes into play, because I told you I don't want it to respond if the device thinks it's on a public network, right? I just don't want it to respond at all. So I only want this if the network that it's on is either private or domain, which is not the case over here. If you see where it says profile enabled and it says profile all. Oops. Okay, let's just get rid of that altogether. So if I right click here, go into properties, and not scope. Program services, no. 1000 ports. I don't think that's it either. Okay, I know it's in here. Oop, go back. Go to general. Allow the connection. Advanced? Yeah, there it is. Under advanced. Okay, so under the advanced tab, I can just untick private or public, click apply. And now we can see that it's domain private. All right, we're going to do the same thing here. Go to properties, advanced, untick public, click OK. And now we go. So DC2 is now set. So we're doing the same thing here in PowerShell, but we're doing both rules at once. We're going to enable them, and only for profiles, private and domain. And just so you know, I'm not lying to you. We'll go to Windows Firewall. We'll go to advanced settings. We'll move this guy over here. Get rid of that action bar to the right, which is this whole thing right here. We can do everything we want through right clicks and left clicks. There's no real reason to take up space with an action that I can right click for, right? Okay, so now here we go. Oop. Not what I wanted at all. No. Okay, so here's our rule. Currently not enabled, right? So come back over here, enter. And I forgot to type net in front of that. So it's set -net firewall rule. I knew that. My fingers did not. Right? No? FPS. All right. How did that go all wonky? All right. So if you can't remember commands and you're horrible at it, right? Because your short-term memory is just shot, you have the phone ringing, whatever. What's the better play here is to go ahead, start typing this in Notepad or something. Now, I do not generally recommend that you RDP or directly connect to a server to do these sorts of things, like do it through a remote PowerShell session or a remote server admin tool of some sort. We don't have all of that set up just yet, so we're stuck here, which is okay initially, right? You just don't want to make a habit out of being in here all the time. Do it for your initial config things, and then once you've got your remote server admin stuff all set up, off you go. So we'll start typing out the command, and then I will find the name of the one that I want, since apparently I did not type it correctly. So I'll highlight it, press enter to copy it from PowerShell so that I can paste it here. All right, put my comma in, put in my parentheses, because I also want to do IPVM6 echo request n. That for some reason I seem to have not been able to type correctly. All right, you know what? We're just going to grab them both and I'll edit out the thing. So hold shift, left arrow, select all the stuff that I want to delete. Not terribly efficient, but there you go. Okay. Enabled. True. Profile is private, not private domain. Okay, now let's come over here and see what my error was. Found with property instance ID, FPS, ICMVR, ERQ. Why does it, what? FPS, ICMP. Oh, it's because I put the V in it. That's why. There's not the version number. It's just ICMP 4, ICMP 6. Okay. And once again, I demonstrate how not to type in the command. You're welcome. All right. Good grief. You'd think I would, you know, you wouldn't think I'd do this for a little bit. All right. So we don't see that these are enabled right now, but if we refresh, come back in, and there they are. And also you can see that profile is domain and private, just like I wanted. Excellent. Now, if I had the commands like I should have had in GitHub, we could have just copy pasted. We're done, right? When you have your own toolkit or your own commands, then you can connect to these remotely or whatever. It's not such an ordeal. PowerShell is probably faster than clicking, but you now know both ways. And you also know the third way, but again, this enables everything. And in case you don't believe me, I'm going to switch over to a machine that we have not configured yet. Because why take my word for it? I'm just the guy that's streaming, right? Okay, so if we go to advanced settings, not advanced settings. Well, yeah, we do want to, I do want to go to advanced settings. All right, get rid of that dumb action bar. Again, I understand the thought process, but to me, it just gets in the way, right? You're taking up valuable real estate because now I can see more columns. I'm not trying to fit thing and have to resize the whole window. I can work with what you give me by default, more or less. Okay, so we expand that out. This is the rule that we're looking for. We click on allow app through firewall right here, right? Come over here. Dun, 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 dun. And we go to file and print sharing. We select it. We unselect public, select private, right? And we move this over here. We go okay. Come back over here, right? Right click, go to refresh. And if we scroll down, we have all this other stuff. We're allowing echo requests for private only, not domain, by the way. For IPv4, IPv6, we're also allowing LL, MNR, UDP packets in, MB datagram in, NetBIOS name in, NetBIOS session in, SMB in. SMB in, we're actually going to want later. So this isn't horrible, but you notice that they're all over here. There's private, there's domain, there's public. It didn't give us an option for domain, which, yeah, it still doesn't give us an option over here. It just gives us private, public. So we've allowed more than what we really want, right? Because the only thing right now I want to do is I want to respond to a ping on either IPv4 or IPv6. Mainly, I really only want it on IPv4, but I'm going to enable IPv6 just because. So come over here, we untick this, clean that up, come over here. That should at least disable all the rules, but now we have all these duplicate kind of rules based on the profile, right? So now we have echo request, private, domain, yada, yada, yada. Not exactly what we're wanting there. Now, since I'm already here, I'm just going to enable the rule, go into properties, go into advanced, tick private, untick public, hit OK. I can get rid of this. Sure you want to delete the rule? Yes, I want to delete the rule. That's fine. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hold down Control and I'm going to left click on all the ones that are duplicates for private only, right? Just like so. Right click, delete, and just clean that whole mess up. We don't need it. It's only clutter. Select the IPv6 echo request rule, enable, come back in, check properties, go to the advanced tab here. Check private, uncheck public, click OK. There you go. Now, go into the network sharing center. So from here as well, you can click on the name of the link, go to details. This is now 16.16.31. So I come over here. I can ping 172.16.16.31. Eh? Oh, okay. So the reason this doesn't work, and this is where I was going on when I was blathering on earlier about the network profile between private, public, and you need to pay attention to it, right? So you can see right here, oops, right here, right, that it's a public network. We did not enable the rule on a public network, did we? No. So we need to switch this from public to private. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go to my GitHub, right? Go into net connection. And that's a lot. I don't want to install Microsoft Edge on file server 1. So if I move this over just like so, which is probably horrible to look at, and I apologize, but we will be done shortly. Go into PowerShell. I'm going to go get net connection profile, network category, public network category. Yes. Okay. And then, so what this command is doing is it's going out and it's getting every adapter that has a network connect category of public. We only have the one, so it's only going to do the one. But if you have multiple network cards on your server and you're using them, which in the masterclass, we will have multiple network cards because of the way we have to set up VLANs with the virtual machines. So this just cycles through all of your network cards. And then we get each of those for each object that it returns. Open our curly braces. Then we're going to set the net connection profile. And then we're going to tell it the interface index, right? of the current one that it's found. So if you have 3 network cards, what it does is it's going to go get the first one it finds that says public. And then for that particular one, it's going to get the interface index number. And then it's going to change the network category to private. All right. So we come over here. We use the fancy PowerShell shortcut for this object. And then we get the dot interface index, which is the interface index property. And then we change the network category to private. Close our curly brace. Okay. Let's move this back where it's not quite as offensive to look at. Matter of fact, since I'm here, I'm going to also rearrange my windows so that as I'm jumping around, you guys can at least follow the logic of which one is which, right? DC2. And there we go. All right. So now we come back over to FS1, have our command, and let's move that out of the way. Keep your eye right there. Provided I didn't fat finger the command. And there we go. We're now a private network again. So if I come back over, retry my ping, ta-da! And the crowd goes wild. All right, close that. Is that now? Actually, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I normally would go through and static IP all of these. But, you know, we've been here for an hour already and we still haven't got to the point of DFS. So let's get show on the road. I'm going to go to manage. I'm going to add roles. Click next. And then role base or feature installation. Yes, that's what I want. Click next. Select a server. Well, we've only got the one. So click next. Now here, I want Active Directory domain services. And then it asks me if I want to add the features that are required for this, right? Like the management tools right here. Yes, I do. So I want to be able to manage it. So we're going to add those features. All right. And that's all I want for now. I'm going to click next. Click next again. Again. Look over all of this. And I'm going to go ahead and tick restart the destination server automatically. Right here, if required. Now, if anybody was, you know, if this server were in production, you obviously wouldn't want to do that, right? If it's in use. This one's currently not in use. It's not going to hurt anything. So I'm going to go ahead and have it restart and save me having to go in and tell it to restart later. And then I'm just going to click install. And then I'm going to come over to DC02, right? DC02. Close down all the non-essential stuff that I don't need because I am done with all of that. Oops, I wanted to exit, not clear. Excuse me. Come back over. Like once again, I'm going to go to manage. Actually, you know what? Do you guys want to see the PowerShell way? Let's do the PowerShell way. So I am going to use an elevated prompt just in case, because quite honestly, half the time the logic for when it's elevated not almost makes no sense. So what do we want to do? We want to install a Windows feature, not a freaker, free feature. Hello. Name. All right. Maybe not. Let's do a get Windows feature. Now, the nice thing about PowerShell is it mainly wants to try work off of essentially 3 verbs: get, set, and remove. Okay, primarily 2. You want your, you want to get, you want to set. For life of me, I can't remember the other one. So in this case, we're going to go get Windows feature. And again, I'm going to format the table. I'm going to tell it to auto with the column and wrap the column as well. Hit enter and let it go chug along. Because once again, if we don't format it out in a table, we're going to get the kind of mess that we did earlier. So we scroll back up, look at the menus and find Active Directory Domain Services. So we come over here and the name is AD Domain Services. So highlight it, press enter to copy. Then we're going to install Windows feature name. We're going to put in a parentheses, then paste the name, right? Just like so. Okay, now there's a couple of other options we want here. When you use PowerShell to do it this way, you have to tell it to include the management tools, not rules, tools. Okay, and then I'm also going to tell it to restart because I just want it to restart for me. I don't want to have to come back later. And there you go. Now you can see it's run off. It started collecting data, doing its thing. This one, configuration required. So this doesn't require a restart, but we do have some additional configuration to do. Now over here, once PowerShell has run the deal, we'll also get a notification right up here on this guy as well. So let's come back over to DC01. All right. Installation succeeded. Awesome. Let's close that. We can go up here, see our big fat notification here. Click the drop down. And what the configuration it says is it wants us to promote this to a domain controller, which oddly enough is what we want to do. So we'll go ahead and click on the link. And now we have the configuration wizard. So our choices here, we can add a domain controller to an existing domain. We don't have one. That's not going to work. Add a new domain to an existing forest. Again, we have no existing domain. We have no existing forest. So we're going to add a new forest here. And then we're going to give it the root name. You can use whatever root name you want, right? And if you want to follow along with this, that's fine. Knock yourself out. So I'm going to use land.galactic-republic-org. And right now you're probably going, what? galacticrepublic.org is my own domain. It is an internet domain that I own, but I don't. So when you're naming a domain, you want to use a valid domain that's internet facing, but you do not want to connect to use the entire internet facing one. So if, since it's the domain I own is galactic-republic.org, I don't want that internally, but I do want a name that's not going to trip up on anything else. So I preface it with LAN. So I create a subdomain LAN because my local area network, right? Then click next. And when you're deploying the first domain in a forest, which is what we were doing here, we're adding a new forest and we're also creating the first domain in that forest. The name of the forest is also the name of the domain. So land.galacticrepublic.org in this case. Okay, so next we're prompted for forest function level, server 2016. is our top choice. So we're going to leave that. We're going to leave the domain functional level there. Now, again, in the masterclass, all of these options are going to be covered in detail. We're kind of glossing over a lot here. We're going to leave the defaults. We need a restore password. So I'm going to go ahead and type one in. Go ahead and click next. Okay, a delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found. This you're going to get pretty much every time you promote a domain controller. The reason being is that what it's saying is it doesn't have the authoritative rights to galactic-republic.org, which is fine. I don't want necessarily anything from the internet to find what's on my domain internally. If I want front-facing things, I can create a DMZ. I can do all those pretty things. So I am not going to create a DNS delegation. This error you can ignore. I'm going to go ahead and click next again. And then I'm going to wait for it to figure out what the NetBIOS domain name is. Spoiler alert, it's going to be LAN in all caps. Just in case. And there we go. I'm going to leave that alone because later when we're going to log into devices and we type in the domain and the username, LAN is a lot easier to type. I am okay leaving it as LAN. It also avoids some confusion with the domain name for other users. Now, we're asked to specify the location of the Active Directory domain services database, the log files, and the sysvol. I'm not changing any of these. I'm going to leave them at their defaults. Click next. I'm going to look over all of the things. So right here, right where it says configure this server as the first Active Directory domain controller in a new forest. Yes. The new domain name is land.galactic-republic.org. This is also the name of the new forest. The NetBIOS name of the domain is LAN, forest functional level, domain functional level, additional options, blah, 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 blah. Again, in the masterclass, all of this, I will go over all of this and explain it to you guys. Right now, again, press for time. I'm going to go ahead and click next, let it verify as prereqs. Then I'm going to come over here to to DC2. I am also going to promote it to a domain controller. So right now I'm going to at least get here to the wizard. And there's a reason why. If I try to promote it now, it will not find DC1 as a domain controller in the domain. And it's going to get cranky. It's going to be like, well, you don't have a domain. So if I leave this option, add a domain controller to an existing domain, which is what I want because that's what DC2 is. We're going to join DC2 to the existing domain of land.galactic-republic.org. But we don't have it created yet, so it'll fail. It'll just freak out. So back to this configuration wizard. We've got a couple of warnings. These are standard. Like you're going to see these all of the time. Well, okay, you're going to see the first one all of the time. This one here where it talks about the default security setting, that's fine. Leave it alone. Do not change it to the less secure option. It's also mad about the fact that I do not have a static IP address. I don't really care. Mainly because this network's small. Again, in the masterclass, this will be proper with an IP address, a static IP address, and all the other things. I'm just glossing over it. Delegation for the DNS server cannot be created. Again, safe to ignore that. We don't care. Go ahead, click install. Let it run through the thing. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, beverage of some sort. Whatever. In this case, this should be renamed. I'm going to flip over to another server. Yep, that's FSO. That's FSO1 and FSO2. All right. Fabulous. Dun, 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 dun. And this, folks, is why you generally pre-stage these. Okay, it's gonna reboot. That's fine. Go ahead, close this. We can close that because we haven't restarted yet. Our notifications should be, yeah, okay, promote to thing. Oh, rude, bro. All right, so we got to wait for that to restart before we can finish DCO2. Now, because I also already have a DHCP server, I am not at this point going to set up a DHCP server using one of the Microsoft servers. In the masterclass, we will. All right, let's go ahead and pre-populate some of this. So we got LAN, galactic, republic.org. Leave that as that. Specify credentials. So here is where we're going to have to actually give it the domain, the name administrator, and the password. Now it's not going to, well, it will work. Should authenticate to it. Yep. There you go. And we wait some more and some more. Actually, what I can do real quick, what I should do is also add disks to the two file servers. Since I want to show good habits, not bad. All right, so I need to create shares for DFS. I really do not want, I never put shares on the C drive of a file server, even if it's got space. Main reason being is if Windows for some reason has an issue and I can no longer load Windows, and the only fix I have is to do is maybe a fresh installation. Obviously, all of the data that is on that drive is going to be chucked. Yes, I have a backup. I could probably restore it. But when you're dealing with virtual machines, because you can detach drives and attach them, if I need to rebuild this, but I want the data, I can just reattach it back. Once I've rebuilt it, I can leave it attached and just scrap the C drive and reconfigure that. Or I can detach the D drive, attach it to another Windows box, right? And then the data is at least there and I can access it pretty quick. I may have to jump through some hoops to maybe reestablish some shares or that sort of thing. But that's going to take less time than me trying to rebuild it or wait for a restore. So in this case, I want a D drive that is also a hard drive. This is another pet peeve of mine. You may be okay with it, and that's totally cool. However, it drives me insane if you have multiple drives that are hard disks. And in this case, the first drive letter we have available is F. So let's go ahead and add the drive. Right. I need to pick a spot for it. And then I'm going to add 250 gigs. We're going to do write back cache and add. Okay, so now under tools, right? Go to computer management. And right here under disk management, I'm going to open that. I'm also going to get rid of this actions bar. Okay, so now if we scroll down, we don't have the disk, which means what? It's there. This is actually the first time I've ever added a disk, like a hot disk, through Proxmox, which may be the issue here, is where it hasn't actually updated yet. Disk action, move, resize. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to detach it. So it's already attached. Woogie. Well, we'll just give it a restart and come back. How about that? Okay, we go to restart. Now here, I understand, again, this is another thing I understand, like where they say, hey, you're restarting. Is it unplanned? And they default to that. But because of the fact that I had to click on start, tell it to restart, that's planned as far as I'm concerned. So I'm just going to change it to planned. Does it matter? No. Can you unplanned it every time? You most certainly can. But when you look through the logs and you see unplanned, just remember, you know, and if you have a supervisor or something that goes in there and looks at the log and they're like, why was there an unplanned restart? You're going to have to explain it. Most likely it'll be fine. But why would you want to take the time out of your day? Just say, hey, it was planned. Whatever. Actually, honestly, because if you have multiple domain controllers, restarting one domain controller is fine as long as you have DNS on both, which you're required. Well, you're not required to, but it's highly recommended by Microsoft that you do for one. And yeah, that's really it. You can restart either one. Nobody should ever know the difference. Don't restart them both at the same time. Very bad. Okay. All right. So DCO1's restarted. So we're good there. We can come over to DCO2. We've got this. So we're ready to click next here. All right. Click next. And active. So it could not contact the domain controller. All right. Now, the reason it cannot contact the domain controller is because of the DNS servers. Because our DNS server is currently set to our firewall, which is also our DHCP server, right? 172.16.16.16. However, the firewall is configured to look out at like 1.1.1 if there's a DNS lookup that it does not have in its cache. So what's happening is we told it the domain, it goes out to look for one on land.galacticrepublic.org. There is no forwarding zone for that. And the firewall says, oh, I don't have that in my cache, and then tries to go out to, either Cloudflare or Google or whatever public DNS that you're using. And it says, I don't know what that is. So I can't find it. Now, an easy way to get around this is why you want essentially static IP addresses for one. But if we right click, go to properties, we come here to IPv4, click on properties again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to use 172.16.16.28, right? So again, click here, right click, go to status, click on details. Yep, 28. Close, close. Come over here. And that should be all I need to do. So we're going to try again. Click next. And hey, look at that. Success. All right. It wants to know a site name. We're leaving the default first site for now. We need a password. All right. Global catalog, DNS server. Yes, all these things are good. What did I mess up here? I didn't type the password the same twice. Okay. All right. Next. Okay. Once again, delegation for this DNS. Again, I don't want anybody from the internet to get the 2019 DCO2. Like 2019 DCO2.land.galacticrepublic.org should not ever respond to anything. So this is okay. I'm not going to update the DNS delegation for that. I'm going to ignore it. Okay, we can replicate from any domain controller. Okay, that's fine. We only have 2. I'm going to leave the database locations and sysfile and log files all in the same place. Absolutely fine. Configure the server as an additional Active Directory domain controller for the domain. Yes. Leave it in the default -first-site.name. That's fine. I can change that. I'm not going to right at the moment. Mainly because I don't need it for what I'm trying to do. Okay, so we look at all of this, all the prerequisites passed. We get our normal warning about security for the cryptography algorithms. It's fine. We're not going to change to that. Again, it's also mad about the fact that it doesn't have a static IP address. I don't care. And delegation for this server cannot be found. Again, all acceptable. Click on install. Let it do the thing. Okay, now we come back over to FS01. Ah, that's my problem. Because I'm an idiot. What I actually did earlier was I added the hard disk to FS02. Because, yeah. All right, so yeah, now if we come to disk management, there we go. Disk is unknown. All right, so let me fix FS1. This also proves, well, reinforces, I guess, the point that as a system admin, distractions are probably bad. You want to mainly focus on one thing at a time, even though you're probably going to have a bunch of stuff. You'd be like, oh, I'll just do the things. And if you're waiting on something, maybe not the worst thing to move on to something else real quick, like I've been doing. Or you can just do one task at a time. So once again, we're going to go to tools, click drop down, go to computer management. Because there is no, so if you're familiar with Windows 10 and Windows 11, what you may be tempted to do is say open file explorer, right click on, say this PC, manage, which should take you to the same spot. You can do that. But that's not how that works. And let me demonstrate. So if I close this, I come back over here, I go to this PC and I go to manage, right? You're used in Windows 10 and 11 to the box pops up for computer management like the one I just closed. But if you notice, the system manager window is the one that's blinking. So what it wants to do is it wants you to say, hey, dummy, go here. Go to tools, go to computer management, because that's where I want you to open it on Windows Server. Okay. Get rid of the action bar because, wow. Let's go back to disk management. Okay, we still don't have a disk here because I haven't attached. So I'm going to go over to Proxmox. And I'm going to add the hard disk that I thought I added earlier, which I did just to FS2. So I saved myself a step there, kind of. Oop, don't discard. Click the thing and ta-da! Now we have a disk. All right, it is currently offline and an unknown, unallocated. All of these things. Okay, so first we come in here, we right click, say, hey, I want this disk to be online. Now we're going to initialize the disk. So right click again, initialize disk. All right. Now, normally this is going to pop up like on a physical server. If you install drives and it finds them, or the first time that you've like configured RAID, you boot it up. First time you go into disk management, it's going to say, hey, you need to initialize a disk. Disk 1 is fine. MBR. Actually, no, I want the GUI ID partition table. Even though it's small enough, I still want to use the GUI ID. Go ahead, click OK. Now, it's still not formatted, and that's fine because I'm going to do that next, but this goes back to what I was talking earlier about my pet peeve. So if you look right now, we have C, D, and E, which is fine. Now, if I go in, I go simple volume, I'm going to use just the full size. It says assign the following drive letter F. No. Because it's a hard drive, the way that I prefer to set up the servers is all of the hard drives, the drive letters are in order, right? So you have C, D, E. If you have another partition that's on a hard disk. F if you have another partition that's on the hard disk. Then your CD drives will come in, right? Now, the only way that we can fix that right now is come in here, change drive letters paths. But I want to move this to E, I want to move this to F. So I need to go to E first, change drive letters paths, click on change. Now I'm going to change this one to F. Yes, I can discard them, but I don't want to just yet. Mainly because if you have an actual optical drive on server, you can't just chuck it like you can here. So let's just go ahead and change it and we'll live with it, right? Then now I'm going to go to D and I'm going to change it to E. Again, change, find E, click OK. The Windows gets cranky about it. It says, hey, this, stuff might not run correctly. It's fine. There's nothing tied to it. Microsoft, just relax. We're all right. Now I'm going to go into my new simple volume. Going to click next on the front thing. Going to use up the full space here. I'm not carving this up into anything special. Now drive letter is D. Can I change this after I create it? Yes, I can, but it's up to you how you want to do it. If you forget, you can go back and fix it later. If you don't want to mess with it at all, don't mess with it at all. I am also going to name this storage without a capital T because that would just be weird. Quick format's fine. I'm not going to worry about folder compression. I am not going to change the allocation size or the file system. Again, in the masterclass, we will discuss this more in depth. For now, I don't care. I want the domain. I want the stuff ready for the shares and everything else. Okay, now we have our storage drive on D. Awesome. Now I can get rid of that. Should be able to come back over to O2. Do the same thing. So go to tools, computer management, wait for it to open. Again, get rid of this action bar. I would really prefer that there's a way to just turn that on or off. Microsoft, if you're listening, can you give me the registry setting to just permanently turn it off so I don't have to go create one? Thank you. All right, we go to disk management. Once again, I need to change drive letters. So E is going to become F. Now, this doesn't bother me so much because they're kind of out of joint. The problem is it's also not the convention. Or, well, okay, it's not consistent. If I get, say, a physical server, it has, say, 2 optical drives. So then that one would be C, D, E, and F. And then the storage partition would be F. But then say I have another server that only has 1 optical drive. Okay, so now that's drive letter E. If I go to access those remotely later through UNC Pass, I have to remember which one's which. If I have the expectation or the standard that C is my OS, D is my storage. If I have multiple disks, then they're going to be C, D, E, F, G. They're going to be consistent all the way across, so that I may know that a server has multiple drives, but I don't have to guess the partition necessarily. Usually anymore, all I ever see is, you know, a C and a D drive, and then maybe optical drives, right? So maybe two. So you've carved up your disks and maybe two partitions, right? So you'll have a C and maybe a D drive. At least then I know if I want to get to, say, the shares on a file server, I just need to know the partition name is D. So it's more about consistency and not having to type something in, get the error message from Windows that, hey, I can't find that, and then be like, oh yeah, that's drive letter T, right? So we'll go in here, we'll change D to E, click OK. And depending on the environment you're in and what managers and policies and everything else, nobody may care about this. It may not be a thing. It is for me. When I set up a server, even for a client, this is the way I do it. I take the time to go ahead and change the drive letters to something consistent. I would recommend you do the same, but hey, your sandbox, you do what you want. All right, so once again, we're offline. So if I right click, bring it online, now it's not initialized. I will initialize the disk. We'll use the GUI partition table, click OK. Now we're unallocated. Awesome. Right click again, new simple volume, click on next, leave the full size. Drive letter D, fabulous. I love it. And come over to the volume label. And I'm going to also name it storage. Perform a quick format, yes. Click next. I'm not going to go over the sizes, but I should. It's bad practice. I apologize. Okay, so now that we have that, confirm that we have a D drive. And we do. 249, yes, yes, yes. Okay, everything is lovely. DC02 should also be restarted. Control-Alt-Delete. Log in as LAN administrator now. So here's another interesting tidbit about domain controllers. And I'm going to use the file server here as my guinea pig. So I'm going to go to tools, right? I'm going to go back to computer management. We also see that we're in a work group. If I go to local users and groups, right? And I go into users, there is a local administrator account. However, if I go into DC02, there is no longer a local users and groups. So there is no local administrator account. If you cannot log into the domain, then there is no alternate local administrator account. It is the domain administrator account. If you use domain/administrator. I get this question a lot during the day job. If somebody can't get into like the domain controller and they're like, so what's the local administrator password? Same as your domain administrator password, because that's the only one it has. That option completely goes away once it becomes a domain controller, but only if it's a domain controller. Just so you know. Okay. Let's see here. Let's move that to where I prefer to have it. I also have not logged into DC01. So let's get this finished up here. This may be a two-part session. Maybe. Okay, probably. All right. All right. So we have our domain. The very first thing I'm going to recommend that you do whenever you create a new domain or you inherit a domain, right? So you start a new job, you're the Active Directory administrator, Windows Server manager, server admin, whatever, right? Go to Tools and open the Active Directory Administrator Center. If it's a new domain, right? So if we go to the domain name over here on the left, then we come over and we look for Enable Recycle Bin right here. And it, if we click on it, it says, are you sure you want to perform it? Because once it's enabled, it cannot be disabled. Well, yeah, I wouldn't have clicked on it if I didn't want to enable. But okay, so yes. Now it says, please refresh it. It's begun enabling the recycle bin for this forest. If it's a new forest, this is fairly quick. If it's established and you got a bunch of stuff in there, it's going to take some time. That's okay. What you want to make sure is that it is actually enabled. The reason you want it enabled is because if you delete something on accident, it will go into the recycle bin for 30 days and you can restore it. So if you delete a user, you can just go back in, restore it. Nobody's really probably any wiser. This is very helpful for obvious reasons, right? Because if you go through and delete, say, an entire OU of active users for some reason, and you have to recreate all of those accounts, you're probably going to wind up in the fetal position on the floor crying. With the recycle bin enabled, you're just going to put them back and be like, nobody saw that, right? So on a new one, the very first thing you should do after you get your very first domain controller is enable the recycle bin. If you start a new job and you inherit a domain, go in and make sure that this is enabled. You will save yourself potential heartache and stress just by doing that simple thing. And you can see here it's grayed out. So we already know it's enabled. There is a PowerShell command, but in the masterclass, we'll go over it here. I'm just glossing over it. Now, another thing I like to do from an organizational standpoint in Active Directory, right? The very first thing I want to do is I want to come in here. I want to go to New Organizational Unit. Now, you can do this either way. As a matter of fact, I'm going to open up both. I don't typically use the Administrative Center, but it's there. It's not something I think a lot of people actually look at all that often and are kind of like, oh, hey, that's what that is. You can do everything from there. I just don't prefer to look at it. So like if you look first, the overview, there's reset password, there's global search, already in a deal. You can type in the username, password, confirm it, leave the checkbox, hit apply. Boom. You've changed the user password. You do not have to go digging through Active Directory users and computers. Yeah, you can also come in here, right click, create a new org unit, new group, new user, new computer account if you want to. You also have new over here, which is the same options, right? You can search under this node if you're looking for something underneath, say, the built-in computers container. You can change domain controllers, raise force functions. You can do all the same stuff that you can do from here. You just have a slightly different window. Some may think it's, you may feel it's more user-friendly than the other one. Whatever. Use whichever one you want. I just don't. And a big part of that is because if I come in here and I go to new and say I want to create a new organizational unit, right? This window here, while not horrible, has a bunch more fluff than if I create a new organizational unit through Active Directory users and computers. I can also do it through PowerShell, but You know, like I could type the name here, untick protect from accidental deletion, or leave it. You may have a policy for that. Honestly, I find I trip over this more often than not when I'm trying to rearrange stuff or clean things up. But I'm also usually one of maybe two people that's ever in the domain. I don't need to fill out the street, city, all this extra stuff here. I don't need it. So I can just come over here, and this is the way that I like to structure my Active Directory. And let me get this so you can see it a little bit better. All right. So, you know, everybody that's ever worked with Active Directory, you're used to this view, right? You have built-in computers, domain controllers. You have users. Depending on how it's set up, you may have other organizational units under users because you've organized your users in a particular way, right? So you may come in here, you may have to dig through some stuff. You may leave all of your computers in computers. In the container, it's not an organizational unit. You can tell by the icon. If you look at the icon here, when you open it, right, you can see an organizational unit. Domain controllers is an organizational unit. And if you don't believe me, I can show you right here. Right. So this is an organizational unit. And if you look at the icon, you have the little bit in the middle. You go to computers, it's a container. Not a huge deal other than Microsoft specifically says that you cannot attach a group policy to a container. It doesn't hurt you really if you leave them all here. Other than it's really not organized, then I would not recommend that you create a bunch of organizational units underneath computers, even though that seems like the obvious choice. I wouldn't recommend it. Again, however you want to do it or whatever policies you have, you know, that's the way that is. If you prefer something different, that's okay. That's great. I have my preferences. So one of the things I like to do is I like to come in here and I will create a new organizational unit right out of the gate. And what am I going to name it? Well, I'm going to put in underscore. Then I'm going to name it the same as the domain, or, well, I don't necessarily need land there. Let's just call it galactic-republic-org. Okay, but I have the underscore. And I'm going to untick protect container from accidental deletion because, again, I have the recycle bin enabled. If I delete it, I just go back and restore it. We're good. If I go to clean something up later and I run a PowerShell script and this flag is ticked, I have to check for it, untick it, then let the script begin. But I can almost guarantee you, you're going to write your fancy little script to go in and do like all this amazing stuff. You're going to be like, yeah, it's great. And it's going to go in, it's going to find one of these and it's going to blow up. And you're going to be like, what? And you're going to find out, oh, I need to add the logic to go check the thing. It's like, again, there may be a hard policy that says this has to be there. I just untick it because I have the recycle bin enabled. Don't care. All right. So now you're like, oh, congratulations, it's at the bottom. Well, is it? So if I refresh, that's not what I wanted at all. I refresh. Ta-da! Now my domain, everything I care about is right at the top. I can now create my structure however I want in organizational units, and it's right here at the top every time. I don't have to go hunting through all the stuff. This whole section here doesn't get cluttered with all the other organizational units. Seems much cleaner to me, but again, your environment, your stuff, do it how you prefer. All right. Another thing that I will go in here and do is under view, make sure you tick advanced features. Now you get some extra clutter here. That's fine. But it will help you when you're, especially when you're doing things like find. And let's just search for the administrator, really, because I can't type. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you get user, you get so on and so forth. And you're like, yeah, I can get that pretty much anyway. I can get that without advanced features, right? And yes, you can. But when you come into properties, this expands out. You get so many more options here. Like object, which tells you, where it's at, the canonical name, distinguished name. Yeah, it's not really distinguished names, but the canonical name, right? So you've got the domain, you've got the OU, you've got the user. So just go ahead and put the advanced view on for yours. You should also, no, that's not what I wanted. Columns. I want, no. Arrange icons, view, list, no. Okay. Somewhere in here, there's choose columns. See, it's right there. All right. So this also gives you more options on the columns, like distinguished name. Edit. Ta-da. And here in your search, you don't have to open up the properties anymore. You just have it right there. And you have the actual distinguished name. Helpful for me. I prefer it. Again, whatever you prefer is fine. So those are the main initial changes that I'll make. And again, this is with having this just at top makes so much sense to me. Maybe that's just me. But okay, so we've got that. I need to create some groups. All right, let's refresh this. Open up. Now, again, we can do this however we want, right? So we can go into the administrative center. We can create a new organizational unit. We can call it, say, users. Fill in any optional information we want. No. Okay. Click OK. There we go. I can do it in Active Directory users and computers. I need to refresh over here real quick. All right. So now if I want to create a new OU of groups, untick the box. Go back to OK. There you go. Everything's happy. I am going to rename that because I don't want the capital. It's not me. It's my OCD. All right. There we go. One more. Real quick. Under organizational unit and let's see, what do we got? Users groups. Computers. Yep. All right. Fabulous. I want to refresh. I'm all right click happy over here. Okay. So there's the initial structure. Now you don't have to split out users, computers, and groups. You can put groups under users. You can do it however you want, whatever you've already got. When it comes to group policies though, I prefer to have users and computers separate because there's, it saves you from having to do kind of a weird loop back thing, because if you have computer settings attached to, say, a user, but then you have to loop back kind of deal. Again, I'm glossing over it, but essentially you got to kind of go back and loop through the group policy again to get it to actually apply. If you split your computer group policies, things that apply specifically to the computer versus what applies to the user, you don't have to do that kind of weird thing and make sure it's in there. So it simplifies your troubleshooting a little bit as to like why maybe something's not applying, or you just don't run into the weird issue at all, which definitely simplifies your troubleshooting because you don't have to troubleshoot, right? Okay, now we can also obviously use PowerShell. In this case, I need a new organizational unit. So new Active Directory or AD org, no capital there. Organize organ. organizational unit. I know how to spell. Let's see. Is it name? I think it's name. Let's consult. The interwebs. So PowerShell, new AD. PowerShell new organizational unit. Still should be new AD organizational unit. Yes, okay. So if we bring up the command, we look, we have what if, don't care, display name, don't care because display name and name are going to be the same. Path. So path is going to be the distinguished name path. And specifies the x.500 path. Okay, so this is where if you're not used to it, your brain may go, wait, what? So yes, so name, we're going to call it, let's see. So we're going to create Jedi first, then under path, parentheses. Okay, so in LDAP and X500, the specification is that you type the distinguished name from bottom to top for containers, organizational units, things of that nature, right? So if I want to put this organizational unit under users, then the first is going to be users, and then I'm going to put it under the next OU is going to be galactic-republic, and then we're at the domain name. So you have to work your way up when you're doing this. So as a matter of fact, it might be a little easier to see a notepad. Let me put it there first. Let's go ahead and change the settings here, which is not under there, it's there. Okay, so we'll put it under 16, leave console lists alone. Okay, so what we want is new AD organizational unit, right? Name Jedi. Ha ha ha. And path. And the path starts with OU for organizational unit. We're starting at the bottom, right? So OU equals users, comma. And then the next organizational unit, which is underscore LAN, or no, not LAN. Galactic Republic .org, comma. Now we've moved up from users to Galactic Republic OU. Now we're in the domain. And this is where things really kind of just make your brain want to skip the needle on the record, because we have to work bottom up almost in reverse for the organizational units. When it comes to the domain section, we have to go in order. So after the comma here, because we're on the domain, so we, DC equals, and then LAN, and then we hit a dot, which means we comma DC, and I'm going to word wrap this. So hopefully it makes a little bit word wrap. There we go. So then LAN dot comma DC equals, next is Galactic Republic. Then we hit another dot. So that would be a comma here. DC equals org, close our parentheses. And there's an option here for unchecking protect from accidental deletion. And yes, I want that. Again, I have the Active Directory recycle bin open. I'm not overly terrified of deleting something, because I can just restore it to an extent. If you do it with a file server, you're going to have a little bit of work, but your recovery time will be so much faster. Okay, so we're going to copy this. And we're going to come over here. We're going to get rid of the dash, protect from accidental deletion. All right, now this is a Boolean value. So in PowerShell, Boolean, protect from actual deletion. Okay, so the Boolean, okay, now I've just got myself all messed up. So anyway, we need true or false, but we need true or false with the $ in front of it. We can't just use true or false. But we can do lowercase. And actually, in this case, I want false, not true. Well, so there's our command. So if I copy all of this, go back over to PowerShell, and not paste it in all the stuff that I already had. Oh, okay. Let me delete everything. Okay, there we go. Now I can paste it. And a simple right click will paste it. You can Control V, whichever. Now if I hit enter, yes. So now if I come over to users and right click and refresh, now I have my Jedi organizational unit under users. Yay. Now, we should probably discuss typing in the command, or a few things. So the order in which this command is done, right? Now I've got it in Notepad, so I can, it's not such a big deal. I can come in here and I can change this. I can change this. So if I want to say create another OU, right? I can just come over here, go around and say, okay, well, I want the same OU and computers. I can copy that, paste it, press enter. Ta-da! Now on our computers. Here we go. Awesome. However, if I want to try and do it all from PowerShell, right? Say I haven't copied it anywhere else. I have a slight issue because now if I press the up arrow in PowerShell, it shows me the last command. I can cycle through the last commands, the commands that I ran. So I can do like here, this is the OU is computers. The next one is users. If I press the down arrow, I go back to computers, right? So if I want to change the OU, I have to scroll around and kind of find this in the middle, right? So the way that I usually like to type out the commands, well, I didn't need to do that, but all right, is anything that's going to stay fairly static, like, okay, protect from accidental deletion. I know that's going to be false every time I run new AD organizational unit, right? So if I do new AD organizational unit, not unite. Okay, so now I go protected from, not pro accidental deletion. So false. All right, that's going to be the same no matter what. So if I put that in the front, everything's groovy, right? Now the path. Yeah, here we're going to want it second, because if we're creating everything, so say we want to create everything under users first, right? So I go user, oops, I can go OU users, comma, OU underscore galactic public, comma, DC LAN, comma, DC galactic public. Yes, it's a lot to type. Please feel free to shorten it. Use example.org if you want. DC org. Close. Okay, so what this does is everything I want to create, say, under the user's organizational unit. That's second. Now, the name. So in this case, say I want to create a new one for Senate, right? Because you know, we have Jedi, we had the Senate. If you go back to episode 1 of Star Wars, you had the Senate, you had the Jedi, and the Galactic Republic. So if we're a domain administrator for the Galactic Republic, we're probably going to need an OU for senators and Jedi and intelligence and whatever. But right now, we're going to focus on mainly those two, Jedi and the Senate. So if I select the whole thing, copy it, now I come over here, paste it, and figure out where I type things wrong. OU equals users. OU equals GLACTIC dash Republic. Okay, what did you not find? Object not found. Excuse me. All right. Just change things up. Just paste this. Take this. Cut it. Move it to the front. Because they're named options, you don't have to put them in order. Okay, so if we do that, come back over here, get rid of this junk, clear up the rest of it, paste that in. Oh, I don't want Jedi though. So see, now I can change the name. Senate. There you go. Now I want to create another one under users, right? So let's say droids. There you go. Just that easy. Now I'm going to switch organization, or now I'm going to switch from users to computers. It is, at first you're going to be like, okay, this feels like duplication. Why wouldn't I just put everything under center and then have senators, computers, and then like Senate, computers, Senate users. And again, you get into kind of that weird group policy thing that you can run into from time to time. So I just do it this way. Again, whatever policies you have or whatever way you prefer to do it is A-okay. Because I'm not the one that has managed it. You are. So what makes sense to you is what you should use. Okay, so OU, at this point, we're going to go under computers. Not computers, just computers. Go on to O. Thank you very much. And there you go. We got Senate. And now we're also going to go for droids. All right. So the amount of kind of back and forth is minimized. Yes, I can copy and pasta this whole thing all over the place. And in some case, if you already have it, you can just copy paste it. That works as well. But now we have all the things. We don't have it in the groups yet, which we can fix right now. We'll just leave the droids. We'll do the droids first. And let's see. So we're under groups. Okay. Droids. Jedi, because we didn't create the Jedi underneath that. And Senate. Don't accidentally clear the screen like I did. But there you go. See? Just that easy. So when you're using PowerShell, depending on where you place the commands, you can save yourself, obviously, like mucking about, moving within the line to change parameters. You can certainly, we could have just taken all this, pasted it, changed all the things, and just paste them all in at the same time and let it do its thing. Again, whatever you prefer. Okay, so we've got that. We need users. Oh, good thing I have my friendly back button. because I forgot the most important one of all. Okay, so we got groups for IT. Now, this one obviously doesn't work out quite well because I'm an idiot and forgot, but it's not horrible. And there you go. Now we should have IT. Yes. Should have it under here as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh the top for the parent OU. Now, there we go. We have 4 in each. Fantastic. All right, so I need a new user here. User, not organizational unit. Okay, so let's see. This is going to be not spelled that way. I'll call that Republic. IT admin. And then Republic 1C admin. Wait, let's call it IT.admin. What do you think? IT admin? Anyone? Okay, so there we go. All right, we need a password. Now I'm going to untick this. Now you might be tempted to go ahead and say password never expires here. And again, that's up to your policies and what you want to do. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to force myself to change the admin password first time I log in. Click next, click finish. Okay, there you go. Now right click, properties, and member of. And we're going to go enterprise admins, domain admins, schema admins. There's more. Okay. Why can I not remember what this is? All right, fine. I'll go look. Okay, so I don't want to use the default administrator account. So domain admins, enterprise admins. But can I just not spell? Seems like I can't spell. Let's move that. Add administrators. Okay, for the record, this is also a bad idea. We don't want a lot of members of these groups. And Microsoft actually recommends that you create like a group of which it is a member of, say, domain and enterprise admins, and have nobody in it, and then add users to it as they need to do things, then remove them from it when they're done. Okay, all of those. But are you just mad because, look, shows you how often I actually come in here and do it this way, right? Yeah, there we go. So you need a semicolon, not a comma. That should, yep, there we go. Group policy creators owners. Okay, so yeah, if you're going to add multiple, you need the group, semicolon, group, semicolon, rinse and repeat. Then click OK. So it's not that I fat fingered it, it's that I was thinking comma, because I don't normally go in and do it that way. To add multiple groups, usually I'll just have PowerShell do it. Okay, so now that we have that, let's close all of this. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, real quick. So we also need to set up DNS on both domain controllers. So we come in here, we'll go to properties. We're also going to have to change it on the file servers, but it's fine. Okay, so here, where it says use the following DNS server and it says 127.0.0.1 or the loopback address, right? If you have one domain controller, this is fine. You're not worried about replication. However, we have two, right? So what we need to do is have domain controller 1, have its primary DNS set to domain controller 2. Then it can look at itself. And you type the actual IP address in here, not the loopback address. So saith Microsoft. Okay, we click OK. Now the reason you crisscross them like that is to ensure that they are aware of the other one and talk to the other domain controller so that they will replicate properly. So when you come back in here, this one's already pointed to DC1. We just haven't put in the secondary. So we right click, go to properties, TCP/4, properties. And see here, Microsoft has put in the loopback address, but Microsoft actually says to put in the IP address, not the loopback address. Don't believe me? You're just going to have to look it up. All right, so now that we've got that sorted, other than the fact that they're not using static IP addresses, and I have to get into the firewall to figure out what the range is so I know what addresses are available. Not something I want to do because I've already taken up 2.5 hours and I still haven't got to DFS yet. I'm not even close to setting that up. Okay, so we're going to join the file servers to the domain. So what we also have to do is set them up to use the domain controllers for DNS. I also need to go in and change DNS. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Okay, so 172.16.16.28. 72. No. 172.16.16.29. Okay, so we do that. Come over here. Now, the full screen server manager should obviously be the first hint to anybody that's not familiar with Microsoft Server that, hey, we want you to focus on using the server manager. That's why we put it there. We put it in your face. So use it. And quite honestly, most of what you're going to do is out of here anyway. In some fashion. Again, depending on what the role of the server is. All right, so we're going to go in here. We're also going to change this to 172, not 175. 172.16.16.28 and 172.16.16.29. I do not expect you to remember the IP addresses of mine. I don't even expect you to remember the IP addresses of yours. If you need to go find it, go find it. Okay, so we got that. We need to join to the domain. So we can click here, could change domain. Now you might be tempted to just type LAN here and you could get away with it, but I would recommend you just go ahead and type in the full domain name. Like so. Or whatever one you choose. If you chose example.org, great. Okay, so now we're going to test out my new user here as well. Okay, and welcome to the domain. Yay, me. And of course you have to restart. All right. So that's great. That's the GUI method. Now if we come over here, we can use the PowerShell method. Okay, so here's another thing. On an existing domain, especially when you're adding servers, right? Your domain's going to be cluttered. You're going to have group policies. You're going to have OUs, all of this stuff. Right, so you're going to, whatever structure you've got here. But you're going to have group policies most likely that are attached to things that do things like install software or put something on the computer that you may or may not want on a server. Like, you know, if you have, say you have a group policy that pushes out Office. You don't want to install Office on every new computer in the domain. All right. And I see this quite often with clients is they want something to apply. So like you're pushing out, say your antivirus software. They want to push it out to every computer on the domain. Okay, that's fine. It's great. It's a good idea. They should all have some, you know, your antivirus or malware protection that you're using. And if you automate it, fantastic. You don't have to remember it. It gets installed. Everything's groovy, right? But if you go to group policy, what you see is what they'll usually do is they'll put it right off of the root of the domain, which will apply to everything underneath it. Don't particularly like that. You also notice missing here is the computer's container, right? So if I put like the default domain policy applies to everything below the root of the domain, which is also my organizational unit where I'm going to have all of my stuff. You don't see the computer's container, but it also applies to anything that goes here by default. And when you join a new machine to the domain, initially, if you do not change it, it wants to put it in the computer's container. So if you have something that pushes out software that's living up here at the root, and you put, you know, a new server in computers, as soon as you log back into it, it's going to want to apply the group policy, which means you're going to have junk on your servers that you don't want. So what's the fix? Right? How do you get around that? Well, you're going to have to put it in a different OU right out of the gate. You have a couple of methods of doing that. The simplest really is to change the default place that you put newly joined computers. However, you may not be allowed to do that. Somebody may say, no, we want everything here. It's fine. So instead of clicking on the usual GUI method, right? So instead of coming up here, clicking on work group, clicking on change, ticking domain and putting our domain name in here, we can do it through PowerShell. And you do it with add computer. However, we may need elevation for this. Okay. And if you want to rename it, you can rename it here with new name and then put in the name of the, you know, the new name that you want for the computer. We're not doing that here. So I'm going to next tell it the domain because you have to specify the domain. galactic-republic.org. Okay. Now, the next option is OU path. So we can tell it the distinguished name of the OU that we want to dump it in, right? So if I come over to computers, over to IT, and create a new organizational unit called servers, right? Now, when I come over here, I could go OU equals servers because we have to work bottom up for the organizational units, right? Comma, OU equals IT, comma, OU equals computers, OU equals, actually, sorry, my apologies. I need to type this WordPad so you guys can really see it. Just feel free to hit me up in chat and be like, hey, dummy, make it bigger. All right, let's go to format. We're going to word wrap it because we're going to run over. We're going to do the font. And 16 sounds like a good idea. In the comments, when I make this public, if that's not big enough, go, hey, dummy, Notepad font's not big enough. Not going to hurt my feelings at all. Okay, so we'll go add computer. Oops. Domain. And domain is LAN. Galactic-public.org. Okay. Our OU path is OU equals and servers. OU equals IT because we're working bottom up, right? So servers, next step up is IT. Next step up is computers. So OU equals computers. And then our next step is the underscore. So underscore hello republic.org. Forgot that I put the .org in there. Okay, now the next step up is the domain. And this is where we have to go in order for the domain name. We also change from OU organizational unit to DC, which is domain container. And LAN dot. So that means we put a comma because we've got a break. Galactic Republic dot. So another comma, another DC, another equals org. And there you go. Right. So if I didn't fat finger anything, we can take this. Oh, well, we're not renaming it. So we don't. No, we do need to restart. Okay. So I'm going to put the restart switch in here as well. Tell it just go ahead and restart yourself. We're going to copy all of that, I think. Let's try it again just to make sure. Okay. Come over here and back out all the stuff I wasted typing, not in Notepad, because, you know, I can do that. Paste it. Enter. Okay. Now it's going to ask for credentials. So you go with the net BIOS name here. We can get away with LAN. We could type it out the whole thing, but LAN is much easier. Also .it.admin, put in our password, enter, and there you go. Now, what has happened, if I go into servers and I refresh, as soon as it comes up, yes. There we go. And ta-da. There we go. Might have had myself a little worried there, like I fat fingered something. So if you have it in something, and another thing is like in your group policy, because you don't want all of that stuff to apply. All right. As you come in, find things like IT or servers, this case, right click here in your group, in your group policy management, and then block inheritance. That way it doesn't inherently try to apply them. So if you drop something in here, you shouldn't get the push of whatever that you don't want. Like if you're installing software and you're doing it from the root, I really would think that strategy. You can, so like in this case, for all of the computers, we can hang it just off of, say computers and apply it to all of the computer objects if we're using computer settings. You're still going to have to disable inheritance here. Now, because we've blocked inheritance, any group policies above it will not apply, except if the group policy is set to enforced. And you can tell because it has the little lock on the icon. If it is set to enforced, blocking inheritance will not stop it. So again, if you're enforcing them because you're like, well, I want it to apply, like you're having trouble for some reason, you don't think it's applying, whatever, and you go in there and like, well, I'm going to enforce it. I really want to make sure that it's done. Again, I would rethink that strategy, or at least where I'm placing the enforced ones, to make sure that I'm getting them about as close to the objects as I really want to make sure that I enforce it for, to avoid things like getting unwanted software on my servers. When my server shouldn't have Office, right? I'm not going to run Office off of a server. I should never actually be in this server any more than I absolutely have to. That's why there are remote management tools, right? Now, another way you can get around it is if you just do a core installation. We haven't done that here, but we'll cover it in the master class as well. So I also need to get FS01, move it to the proper OU, which is over here. When you do this, Active Directory is working, blah, 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 blah. You can just tell it, shut up. Okay, so we have FS1, FS2. Awesome. Now, you'll notice that neither DC1 or DC2 are in the servers group. They're also not in the computer's container, right? That's because they're in their own OU over here under domain controllers, right where they're supposed to be. So there you go. We have a user. I need to set up some groups. So under groups, under Jedi, so let's create a new user. Let's see, Yoda. Yeah. Create Yoda. Give him a password. I'm not going to make him change it first at the next login because, well, he's Yoda. Oh, I put that under groups, didn't I? Why you guys let me do this? Okay, he's not a group. He is a user. All right, let's go back. All right, let's go back to groups. New group. Ugh. Okay, so we're going to preface it with Jedi. Jedi Masters. We're going to leave it as a global. And security. So the group type, you're almost never going to select distribution because that's strictly an email distribution group. So pretty much every group you create anymore is going to be security. Now, back in the days when you may still host, say, Exchange on-prem, then you might still have some distribution groups. But for the most part, it's going to be security. You're going to leave it at global. This really gets into like domain, local, global, and universal really gets in if you have multiple domains in the same forest or two different domains that you're trying to share references across or trust each other beyond the course of or scope of what we're doing here. So we're just going to leave that as is. I also need a group called Jedi. And why do you need a group named Jedi? Because every Jedi Master is going to be a Jedi, right? So if I make Jedi Masters a Master of Jedi, then if I want to grant permissions to, say, all Jedi to a network share. I just have to add the Jedi group and all of the members will get permission. Right? Sure. Okay, so group, let's see, Jedi dot knights. Below KNIGHTS. There we go. And let's see, another group for Jedi and Padawans. Yes, yes. Okay. Groovy, groovy. Oh, and Padawans are also a member of Jedi. Jedi Knights are also a member of Jedi. Now I don't have to go in here and do it. I could add all of the groups just under Jedi, right? So I can come in here, right click on properties, say members, add, and then Jedi dot, where am I at? Knights. And I could semicolon, I could, Jedi dot masters. Of course, I've already added master. Actually, you know what? Here, let's just do this. Remove it. Come in here. Jedi dot knights. Jedi dot masters. There we go. Oops. NIGHT. Bonehead. Okay, there we go. And job done. Right? Yep. Jedi Knights Masters. So, because again, all of them are Jedi. So if it's something that they all should have access to, we can do that. Just like if we go in IT, we create a new group. I'm going to call it IT for information technology. Okay. Okay, another new group. And IT dot, say, admins. And another group of IT dot help desk. We can do the same. We can apply the same logic here, right? We're all going to be like IT admins and IT help desk are still going to be part of IT. So admins, IT help desk, and there you go. All right. That should be enough. At least initially. Oh, I needed to go in and change DNS. So another thing that I like to do is update DNS or make modifications to it. So by default, the DNS server is going to listen for DNS requests on all IP addresses. Now, in this case, we only have the one interface, so that's fine. But if you have multiple interfaces, and depending on how they're configured, you may not want it to even register that there's another interface or anything listening for DNS. You might want to funnel them all through, say, one particular dedicated network card, right? The other thing is maybe you don't want to service IPv6 requests. So typically what I will do is I will come in here, I'll tell it, instead of all IP addresses, I only want you to listen for the following IP address and select only the one that I want it to listen on, which in this case is the default. If it's a virtual machine, which is most likely going to be, you probably only have the one network card. Do you need to worry about this? Probably not. Next, forwarders. I go in and check the forwarders. In this case, the forwarder is right because I want it to go to the firewall first. I also wanted to use root hints if no forwarders are available. These are fine. I'm going to leave those alone. There's nothing new for me to set here. Now, you may also be asking, why? Why do I have DNS on the domain controller? And Microsoft actually wants DNS integrated with Active Directory because it changes DNS in that it will forward updates between the DNS servers when it replicates Active Directory. So it becomes in a secure channel with Active Directory replication. So it's not a mass dump if there's a lot of DNS changes. It increments those as those changes on the regular schedule. So there's smaller chunks, so there's less network traffic. There are other benefits as well, but we're not going to cover all of them right now. It also creates the forward lookup zone for the domain, which is where all of our stuff is. Awesome. Again, in the masterclass, we really dig into all of this. Right now, we're not. So we should have enough. No, we don't. I need to create shares. So I need to go over to the file servers. Okay, so I say your brain's probably about to melt. So why don't we go ahead and pick this up tomorrow? And I'll create the shares. We'll do the permissions. Then we'll create, we'll do the DFS configuration, at which point, that's not what I want. This. At which point we will finally get to how this is supposed to work and answer their question. Because what they did is they switched off the primary server. Like I said, they switched off the primary server. Then they moved the hard disk from PC1, put it over on PC2. They stopped DFS replication, which is actually out of sequence as well, right here. They stopped DFS replication from the secondary and then declare the original primary server has failed in Active Directory in the domain controller, and then remove DFS member. Okay, this here, these two steps definitely should not have happened. If you're simulating a failover or a failure, you don't need to do either of these. You also cleared DNS records that were present in the primary failed server's name, included forward zones and A records. Again, not something you needed to do. Rename the secondary server PC2 to do name PC1. Okay, there's no reason to rename it if you have DFS set up. Because really the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to stop connecting to, say, the one on PC1 and just connect to PC2. And that's going to be handled all within DFS management. Nothing you need to do there. Like I said, if this server totally blows up, nothing's there, users don't know, don't care. Because it's just going to, if they're mapped here in the first place, then it's just going to redirect them to the other one. And they're not going to know. And then they also rebuild the replication group. Okay, yeah, pretty much everything from here to here. All of these steps were not anything they needed to do. Because yeah, you're not going to replicate right. You've introduced all kinds of problems into your domain because you've changed DNS records, you've changed computer names. Yeah, it's no wonder that it doesn't work. So I'm going to go through and actually simulate all of those steps. And then we're going to fix it. Actually, I take that back. I am not going to simulate all of this because I'm not going to remove the hard drive. I'm not going to stop DFS replication. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up, and then we're just going to fail DC. We're going to fail one of the file servers. Doesn't matter. We're going to fail one of the two. Actually, you know what? I'll fail both. I don't care. And then I'll have a workstation that's connected so that we can see that it just seamlessly does the thing. But all of that will be tomorrow. So mark your calendar, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a fantabulous night, and thank you for stopping by.